Don't turn your mic off though, because if you do, people will be upset. And you'll get a little note.
Probably get reprimanded for this.
No, I have a little note.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, where's the note? There's the note.
Oh, yeah.
This is my note for me.
Someone left us, right?
This is for me. And I wrote, and also no clapping into the microphone. No clapping. You can
No
clap.
sniffling.
Oh, maybe.
My husband has complained about that.
Really?
He's like, I can hear you sniffling.
So we're live on stream. Okay. Did you sign in for this?
Systems go.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal informal session for June 2nd, 2022. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. And Commissioner Pula, would you lead us please on the flag salute?
Happily. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item C is calendaring session. Commissioners, anything to add to that? I added the Tillamook Working Lands Tour, which is Sunday and Monday. It's coming Sunday and Monday. I don't know if anybody is attending that, but I will be there. So
Yeah, I'll be there for the, just for the Monday.
for Monday. Okay. So we've got that on there. And then Ken, did you want to talk about work sessions or?
Yeah, that'd be great. So it's not specific to the joint schedule, but we have a few ARPA items that are still open for discussion. 3 areas in particular, childcare and workforce development under the impacted industries, and then also the local supply chain, the proposal from SEDCOR for that program under impacted industries. I know we've had a lot of with budget adoption and everything else. Those have been in the queue for discussion, and just kind of wanted to put that out there on some possible dates on when the board might want to schedule some work sessions and how soon. I know we have a really busy month of June, and so depending on, how soon the board would like to have those discussions, I just wanted to bring that forward.
Yeah, June it seems pretty packed in terms of our schedule with the budget, getting the budget set and everything. So I would propose July. I'm looking at July,
Yeah, I think that the first week in July would be good for me, but
first week in July.
the first Thursday.
Okay. And then do we want to prioritize maybe which one we want to tackle first, or yeah.
Is there a time sensitive, sorry, Chair, is there a time sensitive nature specifically to one versus the other? I'm trying to think.
Well, I'm thinking the one, because we just did an extension for SEDCOR.
Mhm.
So we have both the ARPA timeline and we have their contract with the amended scope of work. So there's a timeline for that. So it seems like that one I would probably, because they're both in the same category as impacted industries, that maybe we could schedule both the SEDCOR and the workforce partnership proposal, maybe for the same session, maybe that first week. I can find a date, and then we can have a discussion on the childcare, and we could even have a really high level discussion on the childcare, and I could give an update of where we're at. And then you can determine whether or not we want to schedule a second work session, or if we're ready to do that at that point. But if the board's okay with that, I'll just look at dates in early July and I'll put something on the schedule unless there's a specific date you want me to avoid or stay away from.
Well, July 7th would be the first Thursday. So that seems fine to me. It's past the holiday and anyone have any objection to
I think
July
Commissioner
7th?
No, I
was
think
about to
that's
say
great.
something.
But the childcare one, I'm wondering if we can just, it might not even require a
Mhm.
work session, if we can just basically decide who's going to be taking that
Yeah.
next step. We could do that right then.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So we'll plan on all three topics on July 7th.
July 7th, yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else for the calendar?
Nope.
I think that's it for me.
And I think the other one is, it's going to be on the agenda for next week, but the city of Lafayette is scheduled to do a presentation as part of the confer and consult for an urban renewal proposal. So that's on the schedule for next week, where representatives for the city of Lafayette will be attending. And I've asked for the materials, so per our regular deadline, so we can update the packet. So just, I know that's going to add to a very busy agenda for next week. So just a reminder of that.
And I will be virtual next week as well. So just as a heads up.
Okay. What is next week?
16? Is that 6?
Yes.
No, that's 9.
The 9th.
Is that the 9th?
The 9th. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you're still fine with the public hearing, but being virtual? That's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending upon what we hear, though, I might ask that we not make a decision until I'm back in.
Sure,
person.
sure. Okay.
But
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, was that everything, Ken, for here? Okay.
Yeah.
Item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than one agenda items or quasi-judicial business matters or topics scheduled for public hearing. And it looks like we do have a general public comment from former Commissioner Dennis Gex. Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome, Commissioner.
welcome.
Last week, I read in the paper that Commissioner Starrett was looking for more input on the term limits issue. So I thought I'd come in and make a couple of comments on that and then on two other things very briefly.
Sounds great.
Would you be more comfortable sitting?
Well, if you
You
don't
got that
mind,
option
Sure.
too.
I have my old friend here. It's 4 generations, by the way. It started with my grandfather's grandfather in Switzerland.
It's an
Wow.
heirloom.
Seems we live longer, but we need help.
But you need that. It's a good trade-off to me.
You've been talking about term limits, and the term limits issue came into being actually the term after I left office. I disagreed with it at the time because of the way that it went in as far as the inclusiveness that was involved in all of it, though in general, I do believe in the concept of term limits. The input I'd like to give you on that, by the way, is this close enough?
You might want to move it a little bit closer.
Pretty good, but
Is
there you
that
go.
better?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The input I'd like to give you on term limits is this. Whatever you decide to do to both the sheriff and the commissioners. I don't believe one should be moved in one direction of having and the other not. I really wonder if there isn't something constitutional regarding the sheriff, so I'm not sure how that might work out, but I'm sure you'll get legal advice and all of that if you decide to go with something. But I really do believe, because of the political aspect of both of the offices, that it's important that commissioners and the sheriff have equal ground when it comes to how long one can serve. So that was my input there. During my term of office, we changed the surveyor to where it was appointed from elected. It was one of the smartest things we did. At the time, Polk County had an appointed surveyor. We did it, and we did it because of the issues involved with replacing a good surveyor. Dan Lynchide was our surveyor for quite some period of time before that happened, and we'd have been hard put to find a better person to fill that particular position. So moving it out of the elected range was, I think, a very wise thing to do. I believe the assessor and the county clerk fall into that same category. We're losing probably one of the best county clerks in the state, and we're losing him because I believe he took the job in Marion County due to term limiting out. We would have been a lot better off to have not had term limits going on when that is. I honestly feel, I know our elections are honest and run with integrity because I know the man. And so I would ask that the assessor and the county clerk not be term limited out if you continue to have them elected. The treasurer, I look at a little different. I've never really felt that should be an elective office, that it should be a part of administrative services, the duties assigned in that particular area and come under the responsibility of the Board of Commissioners. And I believe that because of the expertise and the amount of work involved in that particular position. You have a citizen committee that works and could just as easily work with your administrative services director in giving recommendations. You also have input from the state. The use of county money as far as how it's invested is very tightly regulated. And so that would be my input on that particular item. Now, before I go to the next item, any questions?
Can I just, would you remind us what years you served, Commissioner?
1989 through 1997.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next issue is on the Highway 18 bypass. And you've been doing quite a bit of discussion on that particular issue because of changes, as I understand it, that are being recommended by the city of McMinnville in conjunction with the state of Oregon. I was the assigned commissioner on working with the agreement that was put in place that has things where it is now. One of the things we were assured was, even though there were some stoplights going in out there, when the entire plan was implemented, there would be no stoplights on Highway 18. It would be 18 coming around McMinnville. There'd be clover leaves where they were needed to handle other traffic, and development would work around that particular basic issue. I also know that at this particular point, the committee on bypass is working to try to tie it from Dundee to Dayton. I believe it would be almost impossible to get money for that particular issue if you went into a plan where started putting stoplights out on 18. I was around in the 50s when President Eisenhower put in the concept of the beltways around cities. And driving through America prior to that was one little hamlet after another, stoplight after a stoplight. When that freeway system went in, it gave us the ability to get from one place to another reasonably, and people who didn't want to go into a particular community didn't have to. I would ask the commission to take a very, very strong stand on keeping that initial plan in place as it relates to the Highway 18 bypass. Any thoughts on that?
No, Chair, but it's super helpful to hear yours. Thank you.
Yeah,
What?
It's very helpful to me to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you.
and I think we do have a
Perspective.
Parkway committee. Is this
Next
week,
Yeah.
next Thursday?
Yeah.
So that will be the topic of discussion, it sounds like, so.
And I'm talking with Heather Richards this afternoon too.
Okay.
So I will let you know.
I appreciate your perspective and the fact that you've been around for a lot of these issues. They didn't just surface, and that you've got this sort of the institutional knowledge and I appreciate the fact that you take the time to share it with us. It's very helpful to hear sort of outside our normal perspective. So thank you for that, Commissioner.
Okay. My third issue is a little more tender. And I wasn't even sure I was going to put it on the list, but I am going to, and I hope the intent with which I do this is properly understood. I detest recalls. The reason I detest recalls is because I believe that they can be turned into a political circus. We saw that at the national level, and a bit of that surfaced when we had the one we had here, including positions by other commissioners, former and present. Once an election is over, I believe, especially on the Board of Commissioners, there has to be a type, I don't know if you want to call it camaraderie or what, but the ability to work together. My first 2 years in office, I was the one out. The other two commissioners viewed the world quite a bit differently than I did. And I had to learn to understand how to work with the other two in such a way that we could shake hands after the day was over and it was all right, even though we differed on things. I looked very deeply into the proposals that dealt with the signatures that were gathered. I read the first one, I read the second one in detail. I even went to the point that I pulled down the contribution level for the commissioner in question to find out just who had given to what and where. I wanted to know if this was something that needed to be done, because frankly, if it did, I would have been on the top of the list signing it. I could not find that. And because of that, I think we went through something that we shouldn't have had to go through. And so I sincerely hope that the Board of Commissioners here in the future, as life goes on, take very seriously their position in dealing with one another when something like this comes along. And I think you would be a lot better off not taking positions rather than just, if you're taking a position, take it on the concept of the recall itself, not each other. So take that for what it's worth, and it was still on the list. That I did. One
Thank
last
you.
thought.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
One last thought. I send letters to the commissioners every once in a while, and I have no idea whether you get them or not. It goes to Board of Commissioners. I never get an answer. If I want something specific, I almost have to address the commissioner individually by email. And I'm just wondering if I can get some feedback on how you trust emails that come in on subjects to the board in total on hearings.
Well, typically, if you send it, are you sending it directly to us? We
I'm
should get
sending
it.
it to the Board of Commissioners, BOC.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that goes into the BOC, the public file. And so we see those typically right before the meeting, that Thursday.
Okay, so you have seen the ones that I sent in that way.
I see them.
Yes,
Yes, we see them.
we review all of the public testimony that comes in.
Well, I would suggest you might let the person who's involved know that the commissioners have looked at it, not just we've received it.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say
Yeah.
too, if you email us directly, and it's meant to be public comment, we do forward it on. But it's, we will directly respond as well. So it's just sometimes when it comes in only to the BOC info, we don't actually see it until, maybe the night before or the morning of the BOC meeting.
Bless you.
Excuse
Okay.
me.
I appreciate that feedback, though. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other thoughts, comments? I'm done.
No,
Yeah,
I think
it's good to have you.
Well,
here.
it's great. Thank you.
Thank you for your
um,
input, and thank you
coming
for
in.
leaving everything on the list.
Yes.
Good to see you.
And I will say that I really appreciate that long perspective, especially about things like the bypass.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Take care.
Okay, is there any more public comments? Anyone in the virtual audience? Looks like we have nobody attending today. Okay. So that brings us to your department updates. We have no updates today. Work session, we have none. Consent agenda, looks like there's a couple of things on there. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Commissioner Sterrett moves approval. Is there further discussion?
No, Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay. So moving on to old business, we have no old business. And item I is other business. Item I1 is consideration of recognizing Juneteenth as an official county holiday, aligning with federal and state recognitions effective every June 19th, beginning this year in 2022. So commissioners, I wanted to add this in anticipation of the holiday. And just a brief recap, I don't remember exactly when the federal government adopted it as a formal holiday, but the state did last year during the long session. And so the Senate passed it, I think, right around a year ago, and then it was ultimately signed by the governor. And so this agenda item is to align the county holidays with the state and the federal government. And I just want to read a brief summary of what this day sort of encompasses. This is from the Senate Democrats, and particularly from Senator Lou Frederick, who was the champion of this. It says on June 19, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston, Texas, and issued General Order Number 3, which required the immediate freedom of more than 250,000 enslaved African Americans in Texas. Union troops marched throughout Galveston to spread the word that all slaves were free. Juneteenth is also known as Emancipation Day, Jubilee Day, and Freedom Day. And it goes on to explain some of the Oregonians, African-American Oregonians, who were really spearheading the recognition of this day. So technically what this would mean is that it would be an observed county holiday for all county staff, and that our offices would be closed. So I'm going to open it up for some discussion. This has come forward, numerous times. I think I had this discussion within the first 2 months of taking office. So this is definitely on the minds of our county employees who find this day very significant and want it observed. And so, Commissioner Gould, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it's something that obviously we've also had unions request as well. And I think that with all that interest in it, I think it makes a lot of sense to recognize it and to make it an official county holiday.
And so just for review, this is added as an additional county holiday, not replacing one.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So if with this action, it would be added to the holidays, and then we would put out a communication, and then any other further changes to that would be subject to collective bargaining with the individual unions and the CBA.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So technically could mean different things for different union members, but in general, it's an observed county holiday.
So this would be treated like other holidays, because with the 19th, it falls on a Sunday. So we would observe it on the 20th because it falls on a Sunday. So it'd be observed on the 20th. And then there's certain operations depending on the CBA and the schedule and the operations of that office. There's different implications as far as the collective bargaining agreement for those that have to work on the holiday or are not able to take that, or when they would take that holiday or be able to use that. So that would be conversations that once we put the communication out, any questions that comes up from the various association representatives, they'd be reaching out to county counsel's office or my office.
Okay,
I would move approval, Chair.
great. Commissioner Sterrett moves approval of item. Oops, I lost my place.
I1.
I1. Is there further discussion?
No, Chair.
No. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Item I2 is consideration of approval of an intent to award notice to Bent LLC for construction of the Deer Creek Park Bridge Replacement Project in the amount of $636,388.50. And I notice we do have our director, Mark Lago, here in the audience in case there's questions. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair, I move that we approve item I2 with
Okay.
thanks.
With the thanks.
With thanks and celebration.
Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there further discussion or questions?
I just want to say this has been a long time coming. I
Yeah.
remember when I was the liaison to Parks 8 years ago, and it was a consideration and it was something that was in the works. So thank you for all your work on this.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item I3 is consideration of approval to purchase tongue-tied, sheet piling from Foundation Equipment Supply of Newburgh for the Deer Creek Park Bridge Replacement Project in the amount of $35,561.08. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve item I3.
Okay, any further discussion?
Okay, but I will say that this represents trying to make sure we keep moving with the project. So this is Public Works taking the initiative to get the project and the materials for the builder. So yeah, supply chains be damned.
Yes.
Right. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item I4 is consideration of approval of a professional services contract between Yamhill County and David Evans and Associates, Inc. for engineering and consulting services for bridge replacement on Gopher Valley Road Bridge over Deer Creek in the amount of $539,663.21, effective upon approval through October 27th of 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve item I4.
Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there further discussion or questions on this item?
No, Chair.
No, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item I5, consideration of approval of a personal services contract between Yamhill County and Stephanie Allen for court mediation services in the amount of $85 per hour, not to exceed 5 hours per original case filing, retroactive to May 26th, 2022 through June 30th of 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Sterrett moves approval. Is there further discussion?
No, Chair.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, that wraps up other business. Item 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings today. Item K is announcements. And to follow up really quickly on the fair ambassadors from the discussion last week,
Oh, yeah.
they will be coming on July 14th. So I added that to the future calendar. And then I will remind commissioners maybe 2 weeks ahead of time. My hope is that we can each submit a question for them, because the purpose is to have them practice public speaking.
Yeah.
So maybe each one of us submit one question, and then they can all three of them can answer the 3 questions. So I will remind you about 2 weeks beforehand to do that.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, and I think that's all I have for my announcements. Commissioners' announcements.
I would just add, the recent Board of Health meeting talked a little bit about some of the impacts as a result of the last 3 years of the COVID policies, and starting with preschool, Head Start, and hearing about the developmental issues that children are having, some of the basic things like being able to climb up a ladder. A lot of our children are struggling with the basic childhood development. And then all the way up to, as Director Manfred was sharing about our outreach to mothers, new mothers, is the isolation that they feel. So I think what we're seeing across every demographic and every population is a significant impacts. And I think we're going to have those with us for a long time, and we need to be aware of those and keep our eyes open for any helps that we can offer to everybody who's dealing with some of these issues. So I just wanted to call that out.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fuller, any announcements?
Yeah, I have, so yesterday, along with, as part of legislative days, the House Interim Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources met. They got a lot of updates. They also got the initial proposal for a legislative concept for next session, which is it's for Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife's Wildlife Habitat Conservation Management Program, which is such a long acronym. But if you recall, we opted in 2020, I think, to that program, the Wildlife Conservation and Habitat Management Program tax deferral program. So because we learned that properties that were undergoing oak savanna restoration were losing their tax deferral status as forestry or agriculture. The habitat is an option, but the department has essentially had a pause on accepting new properties into that program because they don't have enough staff time for it. So there's a legislative concept that would allow soil water conservation districts, NRCS offices, so Natural Resource Conservation Service through the USDA, to do the reviewing of plans and the inspection of properties for that tax deferral program, so that more people can be in it who are essentially on a waiting list. So the proposal is just in draft form, and I testified kind of about why we felt like it was reasonable to opt back in, and kind of the thoughts from our assessor along the way. And then we heard from a couple of property owners who testified to the legislature yesterday about that.
I was wondering what our assessor had to say about this and how that would impact their office and some of his perspective.
Yeah, and he was like, they send me the approval, and then I switch them from one program to another.
Okay.
I was like, all right, that's
Yeah.
good.
we
And
know
the
how-
monetary impact, of course,
Right.
for tax revenue is that they're most eligible properties are going to be in a tax deferral status, and they get switched to another one. So there's not a,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Do we
So
know how many people are on a waiting list, or?
we don't,
Okay.
I don't, I will say, there have been people who've applied to ODF and W for that. I don't know how many people haven't applied, but
Okay.
from the county. Apparently though, when it was initially open and they were taking it, Yamhill County has within the top 3 for counties, the number of people who are actively participating in it.
Mhm.
And if you'll recall, Commissioner Starrett, when we heard the Jakeworth Road cannabis processor, there was one person who testified in opposition to it who was in the wildlife habitat program and raved about it. She even showed us pictures. So it was nice to know that there was somebody in it.
Who's actually doing it?
Yeah, who's actually doing it. Yeah.
Right.
And then as I noted, Dave Hageber, the chair of the Parkway Committee, and I are going to be talking with Heather Richards today about what it looks like to have Parkway have a constructive partnership in looking at the Highway 18 bypass as opposed to just presenting opposition. So
Crossing our fingers.
I will
Yes.
keep you posted about
Yes.
that.
There are a lot of very passionate opinions on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think with federal dollar, the potential for a lot of federal dollars and a lot of federal dollars already spent, I think everybody wants to make sure that it's a functional corridor.
Bypass,
Right. A bypass.
a
So,
real life bypass.
yes. So that's it for me. Oh, sorry. One other thing is that, bless you. In light of the horrific shooting at Uvalde, the knowing that there's this need for medics to get in quickly to facilities, I had a conversation with some folks about are our EMTs are safe when they go into situations where there's the potential for danger for active shooters, and I wondered whether it would be worthwhile to hear from the sheriff in a setting, either him briefing each of us individually, or hear about the steps that they've been taking to make sure. Because I know that we've approved funding for sheriff's deputies around ballistic shields, but beyond that.
Right.
Had a conversation, as I believe you did too, with Dr. Heiser, medical director, and my recommendation was to get Sergeant Young looped in. And my recommendation also is that we do a tabletop exercise as one of our functions of emergency management. but there was a plan submitted a number of months ago, and I
Okay.
think they're going to be working with Captain Bowdle to get an idea of where that plan is, to get more of a countywide response. And then also to see where we need to beef up our response and perhaps just do a little bit more present day practice, whether or not we do a tabletop or we do an infield exercise.
Yeah,
Right.
sounds great.
So
Yeah,
it
I
sounds
really
like-
appreciate the emergency management angle.
Right.
Sorry.
It sounds like we've all three have been having the same conversations, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Great.
The same about Dr. Heiser, but then also we've had some retired police officers and firefighters who are interested in helping on a volunteer basis in participating in that discussion. So I think after having some of those conversations, it seemed like having a meeting of the minds or some type of, emergency response summit this summer
Mhm.
to make sure that everybody can voice their ideas. Some people have a lot of great ideas. I don't know if they're workable because we're dealing with school districts. So, but I did have a conversation with a few of the superintendents, and this is something that they are talking about throughout the summer based on other reasons as well. So, maybe it is something where, like you suggested, some type of roundtable meeting or summit or something where we bring in some of these folks. They're absolutely interested, and it might just be as simple as communicating that we do have a plan. It's just people don't know what the plan is,
Mhm.
or something further, like a guardian program or something like that. So,
And I would say
Um,
if there's barriers, since I know that one of our functions is to make sure that people have the funding that they need. If there are barriers in the plan that are around funding, then those need to come up as well. Sorry to interrupt you. I just realized.
no, we're all tracking the same way, so that's great.
Yeah.
And those who are, we do have retired first responders, as you mentioned, who are interested in more of an active program in the schools and had some suggestions. And since that's not our jurisdiction because it's school districts, my recommendation was to go and have that conversation with the school board and let them know that you would propose this volunteer program. So there are a lot of different people that are interested.
Mhm. Okay, my next step was going to be to talk to Sergeant Young and then just see if maybe he can be the one that convenes a meeting with
Okay.
interested parties. So if that sounds like something that might work for everybody's ideas. Okay, I'll check in with him. And then speaking of the sheriff's office, I wanted to recognize, I had it here. Captain Chris Ray is
Yes.
officially retired
As of
after
yesterday-
or-
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Mhm.
Yeah. 27 and a half years of service to our county, which is amazing. And I just want to read this briefly. Captain Ray has held the title of Marine Patrol Reserve Patrol Deputy, Narcotics Detective, Detective Sergeant, Administrative Sergeant, and Captain. At each stage of his career, he has put an emphasis on helping others and working with the community to improve Yamhill County and the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. So we thank him for his service to the county and wish him the best in retirement.
Thank you, Captain.
Yeah, thank you, Captain.
Okay, so I think that's, or Ken and Christian, any announcements?
Yeah, so just a couple really quick updates. The other thing that I'm working on and trying to get scheduled, there was a request for a meeting to have the county clerk come and join the board to have a discussion. I'm currently working on that with the clerk, and right now we're targeting, I don't have it right in front of me, the 16th is where we've tentatively, I put the invitation out to the clerk and I'm talking to him about that. So just a heads up on that. If there's any questions in advance that you would like me to present to Brian, please let me know. The other thing that I just wanted to mention just really briefly as an update is we've reached one of our major milestones when it comes to the Oracle Cloud project, which is for folks that are watching the meeting, it's replacement of our central finance system. So this week, I believe today may be the last day of user acceptance testing that we've been doing for some of the initial modules, which includes our AP, AR, some of the budget modules. There's quite a bit that's intended to go live July 1. And I would be remiss if I didn't call out Mike Barnhart in particular, our finance manager. And I know that there's a whole team of people from other departments that have been working on this user acceptance testing over the last 4 weeks. But in particular, I just want to call out Mike Barnhart because he's been the point person and the lead in implementing this project. And we wouldn't be successfully where we're at right now if it wasn't for Mike. But again, kudos to everyone who's working on that. Again, this is just an initial part. This covers us, a third, maybe close to half of our total implementation that's coming with the project. The next phase includes HR, and actually there's two different budget modules, and the one that we use to build the budget each year is something that we're going to be working on this fall and this winter. So again, it's going well, and they're doing testing, and kudos to Mike Barnhart for the work that he's doing, because again, he's still doing his day job as well while also stepping up and serving as the project manager. And I really appreciate all of his effort on this. So
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, truly.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
And to all the folks who've been working on it, in their own departments. And I hear like how testing is going and how the feedback is. So in fact, I had one person who's been in the county a long time who said, this is so great. And I didn't expect them to say that. It's when there are new things, there's challenges, right? And when you can clearly see the benefits, that's really good to hear.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you, Mike. I did want to, on top of the 16th, we're going to be hearing from the clerk, but I think we should maybe as a board address the vacancy, which is coming up quickly at the end of the month when our clerk is going to be resigning effective, I believe, June
30th will be his
30th.
last day.
So if we could put that as a discussion item to just discuss the vacancy going forward, that would be.
Yeah, I was
It'd be
hoping
great.
that we could do that kind of as one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll hear from him and then,
That would be a discussion,
Great.
yeah.
We'll have that on the agenda for
Okay,
that
great.
same
Thank you.
meeting then.
thank you, Commissioner.
And then the third announcement, and it's another just really quick update. Justin's currently working with Sarah Architects, but they have completed their final draft report based on the strategic capital planning for the campus. And we're currently working with them. That'll be another agenda item, but we want them to come and make that presentation of that final report for the board as well. So once I need to connect with Justin and get an update, and we'll have that on the schedule here coming up shortly. And then the last part, and honestly, this is my last one, is we have a lot of budget steps coming up, including 3 hearings, one for Cove Orchard and the extension service, which I believe is also scheduled for the 16th.
Yes.
We have hearings, and we also do budget adoption that same time as when the hearings are scheduled. And then also on July 16th, we have the county budget hearing that's been noticed. But again, we don't adopt that. We have the hearing and then we come back, and it looks like we'll be doing, I believe on the 30th will be budget adoption. Well, we'll have the resolution and appropriation schedule ready. Did I get up?
When? On the 23rd.
30th.
We'll see. I think we're doing,
Is that 30th
budget
adoption?
adoption will probably be on the 30th.
Budget adoption on the 30th would be really good for me because it's on the 23rd is actually the one day I will not be in cell phone range.
Okay.
And I was a bit horrified, so I apologize.
As long as we adopt the budget before the
Before midnight.
before the end of the fiscal year, we're okay.
Cutting it
I will
close.
guarantee you I will be here on the 30th.
Sounds good. Okay, any further announcements or anything for the good of the order?
I just want to say thank you to all these folks who've been doing a tremendous amount of work, especially on budgets as we get closer to the end and the beginning. Thank you.
And Megan and Carolina
And this guy out here too,
and Mr. Lago.
on the same.
Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I am going to bring the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal informal session to a close. It is 10:42. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.